In this video, we will continue to learn more about the various rules for composition. In the previous video, we have learnt about the rule of thirds and have seen in great detail how to use it both in vertical and horizontal frames. Now let's move on to learn more rules for composition, and the rules we are going to look at in this video include the rule of horizon and the rule of leading lines. Let's listen to Mr. Sarvanan Janakarajan, a wildlife photographer, as he teaches us more about these various rules of composition through examples of his own work.
In the earlier session on composition, we looked at what composition means. We looked at how the frames are formed. We looked at the vertical frame, the portrait mode, or we looked at the landscape mode. We also understood how to make a good aesthetic picture using the rules of composition. In this session, let's cover the other rules of composition. So let's start with placement of horizon. What does horizon mean? The horizon basically means it is a line which separates the top part and the bottom part of a picture, or it also means the imaginary line which keeps the various elements in the picture on the same plane. We have seen pictures where you have sky as well as you have the sky in the background or in the top, and we have water or river or land at the bottom. Now, how do you place the sky? How much importance you give to sky? How much importance you give to the bottom part of the picture? These are all where we cover in the composition rule of horizon. The placement of horizon is of great importance in landscape photography, especially because when you take landscape photography, you would like to include a lot of elements in it, like mountains, like the trees and the rivers and all that. So here the placement of sky is very important, and usually the rule says that the horizon must be placed just above or below the middle part of the picture. So above or below the median. This will make the picture look better rather than dividing or cutting the picture into equal halves. And where do you place the horizon in landscape is also dependent on usually the sky, if the sky is involved, or the major element in the picture. So for example, it could be a mountain, it could be a sea, it could be a forest. So it all depends on which is the major element in the picture that will determine where the horizon is placed. Also, horizon is used in places where the elements must be put in the same plane. We have seen a lot of people taking pictures where their cameras get tilted, or you can see them not taking the picture in a proper landscape or a portrait mode. They themselves are not in a position where they are parallel to the subject. So in those cases also the horizon gets tilted, and it is essential that we correct this in post-processing. Now look at this picture. If you look at the picture, this picture involves the sky, the mountain, the reflection of the mountain in water. Now, if I divide this picture into equal halves, then I would have to give more importance to the sky as well as the sky's reflection in the water. But if I place the horizon in such a way that I take the base of the mountain, not the middle of the frame, but the base of the mountain as my horizon, then I will give more importance to sky in its original form than in the reflection. The reflection, the sky is not important. The reflection of the mountains is important. So in this, you see that the horizon has been placed in below the median of the picture. Also, this helps in if you see the small grass tufts in the bottom frame, they are the leading lines which lead into the frame. So both the horizon as well as the leading lines make this picture look better. When the background is dual toned, you will have an issue of placing the subject properly. So how do you place the subject properly in the background of a dual toned background? So the horizon should not cut the subject in exact half. This will make the picture look very artificial. So the horizon in a wildlife picture is always dependent on the subject, how the subject is placed, and basis the subject you will have to adjust the horizon, and the subject has to be the main feature here. Unlike in landscape where you can cut the horizon basis the sky or the mountain or the river, here you have to cut the horizon very carefully by not cutting the subject exactly into half. So here if you see the horizon where the blue and the brown meet are not in the chest of the subject but are on the top shoulders of the subject, which makes the picture look better. The third rule of composition is the leading lines. The leading lines are imaginary lines that lead your eye through the image, sometimes even out of the image into far beyond. So the leading lines can be elements like river, line of trees, staircase, etc. The importance of leading lines is that these lines connect all the elements in the picture, and they either separate them or they go through them, or the elements are within these boundaries of the leading line. So they actually compose the picture in such a way that you can see all the elements in the picture. The leading lines need not be straight, they can be curved, or even a spiral staircase can be a leading line. It is just a pattern that helps the viewer follow the images, all the elements in the image. For example, in this picture, the leading line is the river. If you look at the river flowing between the mountains, that is what is leading us into this picture, and also away from the beyond the picture, because this river has to be placed in such a way that it takes us through all the elements of the picture. For example, the mountains, the sky, and also the foreground of flowers.
In today's video, we have discussed about the placement of the horizon and the use of leading lines. All of these are going to be very useful to you when you start composing your photographs, especially when you do landscape photography. In this lesson, you have learnt about various rules and concepts of photography which can help you to explore your own creativity. We have to remember that these are mere guidelines, and they can help you to make better photographs through a knowledge of the same. In the next lesson, we are going to continue on the subject of composition, and you're going to be introduced to the rule or guideline of patterns and textures, and you will also learn about in-camera composition.